fellow YouTube anglers. I'm glad you could join me. This is Keeping It Real Fishing, and today I'd like to show you the Lunkerhunt Lunkerfrog. This is a new lure that's coming out, and by saying new, I am going to have to date this video. I never know when you're going to watch it. You might be seeing this 2 years from now. This is July 2013. ICAST 2013 has just ended, and this actually won a soft bait of the year. You can see just from a cursory look that it's a very detailed, very realistic, very attractive looking lure, and so I'd like to take a closer look at it with you. Before I do that, I'd like to actually tell you a short story as to why I was so enamored with this lure, why I was so smitten with it and I had to have it. So I'm going to embark on that short story with you right now. When I was a younger man, I was in the Boy Scouts. I actually was in it all the way. I took it to become an Eagle Scout, which I'm very proud of. And in my time in the Scouts, every year, for the years I was in it, went to summer camp. And for those that don't know, summer camp consists of a week. You go away and you do things, of course, like merit badges, and there's kind of just camaraderie skills amongst you and the fellow boys, life building skills, of course wilderness, things like that. At the time, I was already very, very much a fisherman. I had gotten the fishing bug as a small boy. And while I didn't have very much money, and I didn't know much about tackle or gear, I just loved being out there and fishing. And as you can expect, topwater fishing is very, very exciting to anybody, but particularly when you're really, say in that 13, 14, 15 year range, you're starting to get a grasp on what you're doing as a fisherman. You're starting to actually not just throw the line up, but maybe start thinking and really getting better and understanding the science of it. And it's an exciting time. But to see any fish, to see those bass blow up on a topwater frog as a young person is amazing. And I have these spectacular memories of being at summer camp and being on this small pond. First light in the morning and at dusk at night, and mirror still water and twitching frogs along between lily pads, and boom, terrific topwater strikes, and the fish are, in my mind, twice as big as they probably were in actuality. And what does that have to do with this? Well, one of the lures that I was using at the time reminded me of this, and I hadn't seen a lure quite like it since. And that lure is actually this lure right here. This is the lure I used. This lure is 19 years old. This particular one I'm holding in my hand. And there was a time where I stopped using it because I realized that it was old and I would never see it again. For anybody interested, this is a lure company. It was I think they got bought out by Burke, B-U-R-K-E. And if you just Google like vintage frogs or anything like that, you'll see Burke. And they actually had some very, very, just an aside, we had ICAST coming up and people put out all sorts of new products. Back in I'd say it was the early 90s, late 80s, they actually had an electronic version. There was two little sensors here, and when it hit the water, it would complete the circuit, and the frog actually would make a croaking sound, had a little internal battery. Pretty cool stuff for back in the day. Another frog that I was fishing at the time was actually again, this frog right here. This frog is about 18, 19 years old. Strike King Junior grass frog. That's what a 19-year-old grass frog looks like. This is what one looks like that hasn't had the UV over the years wear it down. But anyway, let's get those out of the way. As you can see, legs, right? What are our frogs that are popular today? Well, today we see a lot of frogs with skirts. That kind of became the de facto standard. This is a Copper's Live Target, a new one. This is in one of their new colors, very beautiful. But skirts kind of became the standard a number of years back. And here's another one, Booyah, they use skirts. A lot of people use the skirts, We have other frogs on the market, of course, with legs. Here's a tremendous frog. This is the Dahlberg Diving Frog. Has some great legs on it. And so I just like to throw those things out there, and because the market has gone back and forth. Anatomical legs, having physical legs, is as old as frogs. If you search those vintage or old school frog lures, you're going to see frogs going back 30, 40 years. As long as plastic and rubber have been around, they have been making kind of frogs that look the part, look real. And some even more so than this. There were some that were actually kind of like true mimics of real frogs, and the legs were much bigger, like as if you picked up a frog and they just molded it. So this is nothing new. That's kind of just what I want to put out there. This is getting a lot of interest and everything, but this has gone back and forth, and skirts are not new. They had skirts way, way back in the day, depending on how old you are, probably before you were born. I mean, hula popper, you know, skirts were coming out on that, and that's over 50 years old. So the skirt and leg thing has gone back and forth, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. It's just a different presence in the water. But just getting back quickly to my story, and I'll end it there. I have such great, probably distorted memories, but I'll let them be distorted, as fishing memories often become. I have great memories of fishing this frog with these legs and not having much money and not having many lures. I just had, you know, a handful of lures, a little small tackle box, maybe 2 trays, a couple top waters, maybe 2 or 3 spinnerbaits, something like that. But I loved this lure because it was so cool looking. I liked looking at the legs. I thought, wow, someone put a lot of effort into this. They made it look so real. They even gave it like little frog calf muscles, and, you know, in the water it would kick a little bit. It's kind of a stiff rubber, but it just looks so awesome. I was so proud of this lure, and as much as I loved fishing it for the excitement it gave me, I was always afraid to lose it. So I guess at some point, I don't remember when, I did pull it out of my tackle box just because I loved it so much. Hence the reason that when I saw this lure come out, I had to have it. I saw this and it just reminded me so much of this old lure here from my glory days as a young man fishing summer camp, those early mornings. So without further ado, let's take a close look at the Lunkerhunt Lunkerfrog. Taking a look at the packaging. One of the things, a small thing I really like about the packaging is the fact that it's clear all around, and you could see a very important detail of the frog, which is what the fish are going to see, which is the bottom. You can kind of figure this out from most frogs, but depending on the manufacturer, sometimes you see the top, which is all well and good, but the bottom may be covered. Or you kind of have to, like, you know, do one of these, like kind of look on the side and kind of, you know, angle it to see what color is that on the bottom. This I just like. You just flip it over because this is what fish are going to see. You know, they're going to see that white and that yellow. This here is more for you and I. Although these frogs do have that weight in the back, which we're going to see soon, and so it does kind of sit a little tilted in the water, so they will get a little bit of this green and the markings on the side. But, you know, really that's probably only perceivable if you're dead sticking it. If you're, you know, ushering this thing along, they're just going to see a splash, and they're going to see a little streak of white, yellow, and some legs. Let's take it out of the... Actually, let's just... Lunkerhunt just goes into the detail here, saying how it kicks as you twitch it. Real life action. Okay, so nice packaging. Let's take a closer look. There we go. Has been used. I just put it back in here just so I can show you guys the packaging. Okay, so now the real appeal of the Lunkerhunt Frog is going to be the detail. And this is where things are at in the market right now, and I'm very happy to report it's a very good thing. It seems like coppers here started a trend, and people appreciate realistic looking lures. I've always been a fan of realistic looking lures. Not to say that lures that don't look like anything don't work. Plenty of those work too, but realistic looking frogs are just kind of nice looking. So with the Lunkerhunt, the main thing, of course, are these legs. And as I'm thinking about it, let me just say here, one of my thoughts was when I saw these legs, it did remind me pretty immediately of the Dahlberg frog. And I said, alright, well, we already have a frog on the market with these kicking legs, and these are kind of like that Elastec material. You know, you could stretch the heck out of them. And I wondered if it would kick as good, not as good, or better. And I'll just say this right here, in terms of realistic kicking motion, like most true to an actual frog, I'd say the Dahlberg does a little bit of a better job, and it just has to do with the density, or the softness as it were, of this material, and I guess maybe just the way the joints and how much they cut it up in here and whatever. But this one does kick more fully back. It happens a little bit more slowly, so you really see the leg kick back and then come forward. It's a more fluid process. On the Lunkerhunt, the kick does happen, but it's very fast. It kind of goes back fast and comes back here, and then the legs sit very close to the body in the water like so. And on a side profile in the water, hard to say, but if this is kind of like the water line, you know, the legs sit below, which I think is a very good thing, and a little bit of the body sits below as well. Let's take a look at some of the details here. Very, very nice on the paint job, and on the moldings we have little arms here like on a live target. Great job with the there's your LH Lunkerhunt, pretty cool. You can see the means by which the legs attach there. I'm going to talk more about that in just a second. A lot of detail here. You can see all those little ridges. One of the things I really like is that this paint is not a matte finish. It's kind of a reflective finish. So you can see kind of there as I squeeze it, and just as the rubber bends, you can see that kind of that glistening or that reflectiveness of it. It's subtle. It's very subtle, but it looks really good. Again, what does the fish see? This portion of it, but it just looks good. There's no downside to it, that's for sure. You can see the eyes there. There's your weight to keep the bottom end of it down. Now let's talk about what I think is one of the most important thing in any frogs, and that's compressibility. To me, compressibility trumps everything. If a frog is not soft, or I should say the softer the frog, the better your hookup ratio, which in frogs is always going to be a little sketchy just because of the fact that the hook is not exposed. Compressibility in the Lunkerhunt frog is, I'd say, very good. Very good. If I had to do a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say probably well, I need a point of reference. So if a booyah frog is, in my experience so far, perfect, and by perfect I just mean the softest one I've ever felt, this thing just collapses with almost no effort. If this is a 10, I would put the Lunkerhunt at probably at a solid 9. It's just a hair stiffer, but not by very much. And I really don't see the material impeding hookup ratios at all. Okay, so that's a very good thing. I said I want to get back to these legs. One thing I do want to note, and I'm going to put a little link in the description if you want to check it out. In my researching this frog, I came across a site, and you can click on that for more information. This guy has a lot of great reviews, and in his fishing it, very quickly he found that these legs, one of his legs I believe got ripped out. These legs are not continuous through here, so this is not one leg and then a single piece of material going into there. There's like a little nub which goes into this hole, and I guess it's super glued, and the same thing here. There's like a little nub. They squeeze it through, it pops into place, and then they glue it. These can break. These are not Elastec. These are just like a regular material. They can break, and according to him and his experiences, they can just be pulled out. So while it hasn't happened to me yet, I'm going to, and I think if you purchase this, it would be prudent to put an extra layer of super glue all around, I'm having trouble focusing here, all around where this leg attaches into that section. If it's going to get pulled out, I think it's going to get pulled out either way, and the glue on the inside I think is giving you probably 95% of your your hold there, but I would put some super glue around here because they can be ripped out. And so that is one of the cons of the lure. You do have the image of a frog with legs as opposed to a skirt. You do have that kicking motion, but what is the downside of employing a frog with this as opposed to a skirt? Bass can get their mouths just on this, and like they rip a lot of our lures to pieces, they can rip this apart in just one fell swoop, and that's kind of frustrating. Although the frog is priced reasonable. I believe, I should have it in front of me, but I believe it's $7.99. If not, I'll amend the video, but I believe it's $7.99, which is not bad as frogs go. It's not too bad, but still, you don't want to be fishing. That could happen on your first or second strike. You don't want to lose a lure on your nice new, or lose a leg on your nice new frog. So we'll see how these hold up over time. Okay, let's get a weight on this guy. So that's been the Lunkerhunt Lunkerfrog. I think it's a really nice frog. It's a great addition to the market. Like I said, the kicking action between this and I guess the one most similar to it, employing legs right now, would be the Dahlberg Frog. And perhaps these legs will loosen up, but in my opinion, the Dahlberg Frog does a little bit better job kicking. Does that make a difference in terms of your strikes? I wouldn't say so. If a fish is looking for a frog, it's going to hit it. It's the subtleties of the kick I don't think are going to make one bite over another, but just my observations, the Dahlberg Frog does a little bit better job. Again, these kicks are kind of fast. They kind of go back fast and come back here fast. So anyway, guys, Lunkerhunt Lunkerfrog. Beautiful, beautiful, hollow body, topwater frog. Any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.